Hello, and thanks for joining us on today's show. Teenage hack, pulp novelist, war veteran, and also film director. In today's film show, we remember Sam Fuller, who's being honoured in a Paris retrospective.
I'm an American film director. My name is Samantha Fuller. I'm here to make a picture in Paris called Flowers of Evil.
We're joined in the studio by his daughter, Samantha Fuller, and film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Samantha and Lisa, welcome to the show. Delighted to have you. Now, Samantha, you pieced together your father's extraordinary story in a documentary, A Fuller Life, a crime reporter, a soldier, a director, so many things. He seems to have been everywhere that mattered during the 20th century. What will people discover if they go to Paris's Cinematheque?
Ooh, a full body of all of his films. I mean, they have a great program, full lineup, really packed next few weeks coming up. And including the documentary I made about him, entitled, rightfully so, A Fuller Life.
He was quite a man, and Sam Fuller proved a huge influence on lots of people, Lisa. The Nouvelle Vague adored him, as did Wim Wenders, Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino as well. Describe his work, because he was never really a household name, was he?
Well, describing Samuel Fuller's work is no different than addressing the human condition and the full scope of human emotions. You name it, westerns, war dramas, spy dramas. His work as a teenage copy boy in New York City in the 1920s, including frequent visits to the morgue on the morgue beat, gave him a sense of the importance of telling a story, an accurate, interesting yarn, well told. And that was something that he did in his writing and also when he became a filmmaker. So you grab your reader, you grab your audience, and you never let them go. And as a result, Fuller's films are incredibly direct and yet strangely subtle. It's an irresistible combination in the best ones. As for being a household word, he is, of course, a household word in all the best households. But keep in mind that at the time when he made most of his films, people didn't really think about the director of a movie aside from a Hitchcock. You know, it was the actors who were in it. And here in France, I mean, this is amazing. No fewer than 3 new movies about, 3 new books about Samuel Fuller. You can work out with these, and there's a lot to say about him. Now, we talk a lot about fake news these days, and Sam Fuller flew with that because he made an amazing film called Shock Corridor, which is the central character is a newspaper man who absolutely wants to win a Pulitzer Prize, and he figures the way to do that is to go undercover and do an expose of conditions in insane asylums. How does he do that? He gets himself committed to a real insane asylum.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Shock Corridor.
What's that? The sign of the invisible empire. That's a cyclos. From the Greek word kuklos, means circle. This baptizes a new organization, the Ku Klux.
Sounds good.
No. Ku Klux Klan. Sounds more mysterious, more menacing, more alliterative. Ku Klux Klan. Say it.
Ku Klux Klan.
KKK.
KKK.
It'll catch on quick.
Now, Samantha, your father gave roles to women, prominent roles to women, and also to non-Caucasian actors, and he was doing this way back. Would you say that he gave special emphasis on what we now call diversity on screen?
Diversity, and also highlighting the underdog, because he did come from the world of the underdog. Being a crime reporter, he met all walks of life growing up, and he wanted to showcase them as well. In fact, he was an anti-hero, anti-film star. And once again, tying back into his days of being a reporter, he wanted to tell facts. So let's expose them the way they are. And if I may add on, Lisa, you said, you know, different styles of film he made, film noir, war films, westerns, but he also was, there's comedy in all of his films. There's that sarcasm, the irony that you don't find in other films, even though he's talking about very serious topics. You're just smiling the way through, and that's his spirit. It's a sense of humor, a sense of irony, and the subtlety and the variations in life. He didn't like labelings and categorizing things.
What do you think he would have made of what's going on in Hollywood at the moment in this rash of reports of sexual harassment against women?
You know, he also liked to separate work and professional life and personal life. And this blend of both is actually not a good combination going on. He never slept with any of his stars, and he was a workaholic. So for him, I don't think he would understand how people would want to mingle both, and he would be appalled by what's going on.
Now, we were all razzle-dazzled by how well you speak French because you were also on our the French language show à l'affiche. And that's because I think you lived here in France with your parents in the 1980s. How did you come to leave America and come to France? Why was that?
Well, after making his big war epic, The Big Red One, which was a big success with Lee Marvin and Mark Hamill and Bobby Carradine, he went on to make a movie called White Dog, adapted by a novel by Roman Gary. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about a racist dog. And the film was very misunderstood at the time and wasn't released. And once again, he really despised labels, and they labeled it smack on the top of the file as a racist film. But there's a lot more to that, of course. And the hypocrisy of the system led him to want to work elsewhere. And the film was very well received in France at the time, and we came here and he got jobs and we wound up staying here. So I lived here from the age of 7 to 22, went to French schools, et donc je parle français très bien.
And Samantha, for people who might not know his work, one film that they should watch?
It's really hard to make a choice, but I must say, when it really comes down to it, if I would recommend one film, it would be The Big Red One, because that is the most autobiographical film. Direct autobiographical film that he made, and it took him decades to tell that story. And I was a little girl and present at the time he filmed it, so I have the most vivid memories of that film. It was my first impressions of being on a set and seeing the transformation of my father reliving the war on a film set. And so that's really my film of choice, the one that speaks most to me, and probably the one I've seen the most.
Okay, Samantha, thank you very much. And the Sam Fuller retrospective is on until the 15th of February at Paris Cinematheque. And here's an idea of what to expect. There we go. Moving on now, Lisa. Movie-going in theatres is down in most countries, but not here in France.
That's absolutely true, and reason to celebrate. Just released official figures tell us that people in France still leave their homes regularly to go out to the communal experience in movie theaters. Film-going in France is the healthiest in all of Europe, with 209 million tickets sold. And this is something the French have done brilliantly since after World War II. They don't count the amount of money amassed, because it might be, 3 euros to see a movie one place and 10 another. They count the exact number of tickets sold, so you can compare. 2017 was the third best year at the box office in the last 50 years. That's the good news. It's worth noting that the top movies, however, mostly belong to a genre. I'm going to use a technical film critic term here, stupid comedies. Those are really popular. And Luc Besson's mostly unwatchable sci-fi extravaganza, Valerian and the Thousand Planets, or 1,000 Too Many, somehow got 4 million people to willingly part with the price of a ticket. 2 movies sold more than 5 million tickets. One I recommend, Despicable Me 3, whose characters were invented by a Frenchman. They're voiced by a Frenchman, and most of the animators are French. And ho-hum, Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi. Admissions for French movies are up over last year, and what most people call art films are alive and well here. There are 10% more movie theaters than there were 10 years ago. 700 new films came out last year in France. How many of the 200 French films were directed by women? I know you're dying to know. More than in any other country on earth. And that's just going to improve because there is no institutional bias against women.
Okay, just before we go, Lisa, what's your film of the week?
My film of the week and possibly of the month. If you're going to let a man put words in your mouth, you could do far worse than letting Aaron Sorkin write them. And he is the screenwriter who has just made his directing debut with Molly's Game. It's currently doing very well at the French box office. Sorkin is, of course, the wordsmith who wrote the TV show The West Wing and also the films The Social Network, Moneyball, and Steve Jobs. And his characters, whether they're funny, snide, threatening, whatever, you wish you were surrounded by people who talk that good or, you know, speak that well. He adapted the true story of Molly Bloom, not, you know, James Joyce fans, that Molly Bloom. But she's wonderfully played by Jessica Chastain. Grew up in Colorado with a very demanding father, was a Olympic caliber athlete, was forced to give up sports, and ended up running clandestine poker games with household name athletes and movie stars, and where hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars changed hands. She got busted, and of course, since she had standards, refused to rat on the people who had come to her clandestine poker games. And it's full of tension and suspense. And a lot of people think that there are not juicy roles for women. This role is so juicy. I swear, I saw some pears and peaches in the lobby, you know, being jealous. And also, they complain that there are not good roles for black actors. Idris Elba is outstanding as her lawyer, and he is smart, and he is well paid, and he is raising an adorable, incredibly precocious daughter. So good role models, effortlessly integrated.
Okay, Lisa, thank you. We're going to leave you with a clip from Molly's Game. Thanks also to Samantha Fuller, who was here to talk about her father, director Sam Fuller, who's the subject of a retrospective at Paris Cinematheque until the 15th of February. A documentary, A Fuller Life, is out on DVD now. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Donnie Silverman, my brilliant find. He lost
Marty,
$6 million
stop.
on my table.
Stop.
Moved to Florida, got a job as a substitute teacher, then hanged himself.
Oh, and
in
that's
his shower.
your fault. That's
Donnie
not your
Silverman's
fault.
dead. Harlan Eustace is in jail in Nevada, wishing he was, but that's not why I'm saying no.
You're not saying no.
I was named after my great-grandmother.
I don't care.
Molly.
We will stay
Bloom
here all night
is my
until you
name.
understand. Until you understand, nobody gives a about your good name.
I do.
Why?
Because.
Why?
Because.
Tell me why.
Because it's all I have left.